Now, under normal circumstances, I would just show you the Kyoryu disc and attach it to a Shinkenmaru. However, even though they do that in the show, you don't have to. Because the Kyoryu Origami already has, careful, watch your fingers, a very convenient praxinoscope already built into it. And if I do say so myself, that is perhaps the most fluid and seamless heat-end disc animation that I've seen on any heat-end disc personally. I think I've got what, 12 or 13 heat-end discs now. This one by far has the best animation of them all. Very, very nice. But I'm not going to take it off because you're supposed to leave it on, as that becomes part of the Kyoryu Origami. Very, very nice pattern texture right there. The front half of the blade here is PVC. The whole rest of it is ABS. Not much to say at this point, except you're probably wondering, why is it that none of the other origami have their own praxinoscopes? And that is because none of the other origami are remakes, remolds of the Hiden Saiseto Shinkenmaru. And there's your LED right there. On-off switch there. Speaker. Battery compartment on this side takes 2 AAA batteries, which you have to provide. Posability is as follows. There is no posability. In fact, the only thing that this is good for, really, is to use as the Kyoryu Maru, which is not easy for me to say, I must admit. Now, I'm going to put this right up front because I do find this quite important. You will not find this in the instructions. Oh, don't shake it! You will not find this on the box, okay? This is me. This is AV Unit 4A saying this, okay? And I do think this is important, so please listen carefully. With the Shinkenmaru, this is a role-play toy, okay? It's meant to be swung about. It's got a PVC blade on it. It's meant to be swung about. Don't hit anybody or anything with it, but you can swing it about, okay? That's kind of the point of it, okay? It is a sword after all. It's a katana. No problem there, okay? Okay, well, I would strongly advise you not to swing the Kyoryu Maru around like a role-play toy. And here is why. Look at all that mass sitting back there, which is not present on the Shinkenmaru, okay? There's a lot of extra ABS sitting right here, okay? And even if you take the legs off, which, you know, obviously I'll be getting to in a little bit here, even if you take the legs off, there is still a lot of plastic hanging onto the backside here. I do not know if this was compensated for by the designers at Plex and Bandai when they built this thing, when they designed it. But I would think that this extra mass may or may not have been taken into account when they designed the Shinkenmaru. Here's why I say that. I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to convey this. You can barely see it twisting here. Okay, you can see the handle, the grip is twisting side to side, okay? That happened on the Shinkenmaru as well, okay? However, there's a lot of extra weight sitting on the back here, and if the shaft going through the center of the praxinoscope is only plastic, my guess, it hasn't happened yet, and I'm not going to try and attempt it, but my guess is that that center shaft in there, which goes through the center of the praxinoscope, may not be able to handle the serious amount of torquing that's happening here. There's a little bit of, there's bracing here, and obviously it ends up here, but the shaft also has to go through this section here. In my opinion, I don't think it's a good idea to swing this about because, in my opinion, without having taken it apart, and I'm not going to, I suspect that swinging this around with that extra bit sitting on the backside would not be a good idea. In that case, you probably just want to treat this not as the Kyoryu Maru, but strictly as the Kyoryu Origami. Okay? So I know that took about 5 minutes to say that, but I want to make my point absolutely clear about that. Alright? Speaker is opposite the LED. When you squeeze the trigger once quickly, you get this. Three separate sound effects. They always play in that order. Well, most of the time. However, a new feature with the Kyoryu Origami is, which was not present with the Shinken-Maru. I was trying to decide whether I should stop here and start over. Anyways, if you hold down the button once, it'll cycle through one of those three sounds, and then it'll make a unique sound. And it'll be that same sound effect each time. I double-checked, the Shinken-Maru does not have a hold-down delayed reaction button to it. And of course the Prexanoscope also has the same type of physical sensor sitting up here. And it registers two different speeds. That particular sound effect is almost identical to the way it happens on the Shinken-Maru, but not quite. There is some subtle difference to it. And the higher speeds. So as opposed to with the Shinken-Maru, you get 6 alternating sound effects which randomly play. With the Kyoryu Maru, it only plays one sound effect. So that is it for the Kyoryu Maru, Kyoryu Origami by itself. Even though I advise against treating it like a role-play weapon, the Kyoryu Origami is still a role-playing toy. It's intended to be swung about, even though I'm advising you not to. So these limbs are actually attached rather tightly with their own little joints. So push that there, that comes off. There's a switch on the top here. Take that one off, take that one off, and while I'm in the area, flip that out. Take the 2 leg pieces, snap them together like that. And for the very last time with the DX Shinken-O, we're going to remove the helmet. However, we're going to take the sword off but not reattach it, and we're going to leave the sword on. Because the Kyoryu Origami, in a manner similar to the way the Shinken-Maru transforms into the Shinkenger's personal weapons, the same is also true of the Daishinken. The Daishinken transforms itself into the Kyoryu Origami, and then the Kyoryu Origami merges with the Shinken-O to become the Kyoryu Shinken-O. Kyoryu Shinken-O is very, very, very unwieldy because, well, first of all, this thing that you see right here is as heavy, perhaps even more so, than the DX Shinken-O is by itself. There's no possible way that that tiny little shoulder joint there, let alone the feet or anything else on here, is able to compensate the weight of this massive thing. So you're pretty much stuck with that pose right there. Careful, it's unstable. Except maybe that little bit right there. It's only held in place by this little tiny tab here, and I do mean it's little. I mean, it just pops out so easily. And the only reason it has a base here, the base doesn't even snap into place, okay? It just fits in there, okay? The only reason it has a base is so that it doesn't do this, okay? That's the only reason that it has a base, because if you try to fit that back in like that, it'll tilt back and forth all over the place. So you have to have the base in order to get the, what am I pointing at? Kyoryu Origami to hold on to its weapon. And ironically, in the show, Kyoryu Origami actually holds on to the grip back here. So, you know, technically it should be hanging on back here. The only good thing about this, perhaps, is that we get the last of the Samurai Buso helmets out of it. And that's about it. So that is it for the Kyoryu Origami. Boy, do I have good timing or what? On November 26, 2011, the highly anticipated Power Rangers Samurai movie came out. Boy, did we all get excited about nothing, huh? We were expecting an hour 15, hour and a half on the big screen, and nah, it's just a flimsy old made-for-TV movie. At least they didn't do the Power Rangers Turbo thing, where they made the movie on a television series budget and then put it up on the big screen and called it a movie. You know, at least they didn't do that. But they did give us the Power Rangers Samurai, Power Rangers RPM crossover in the form of the Ranger Operator Series Red. We also got introduced to the Lantern Zord, which, even 4 days after the movie came out, we have not seen in toy form. So don't ask me about it, because I don't know anything about it at this point, and quite frankly, I don't care. I've got Daigoyo. Why do I need to worry about the Lantern Zord? And we also got to see the Kyoryu Origami, which is now to be known as the Shark Zord. Wait, what? Shark Zord? Well, it's got fins up here, it's got fins down here, it's got a nice pointed nose, it's got really sharp teeth, he's got the eye thing going, which is kind of cold and cruel. He's got some fins down here, he's got some fins here. Never mind the fact that he's got legs, and, you know, sharks don't have a tail like that. Just ignore that part and you'll be fine. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is now known as the Shark Zord. Now, obviously, in this day and age, Bandai would never think of importing the Kyoryu Origami. That's just silly. So they made their own version of the Shark Zord, complete with an alternate Red Ranger Mega Mode, which, to be fair, that Mega Mode Ranger actually doesn't look too bad. I was kind of on the fence about the Mega Modes for various reasons, but that Shark Mega Mode version, I'm actually kind of digging that. If they make a separate action figure of him, I just might go for that. Something else I'm considering is the Shark Zord itself is obviously not going to be this big. It doesn't have the electronics, and it doesn't have the praxinoscope. However, and I haven't seen a side-by-side comparison of it yet, it might fit into the hands of the Shinkenger. Might. It's probably going to be a few more days before they actually get out into the stores, because, you know, they're pumping it up for the Christmas shopping season. But it might be able to fit into the Shinkenger's hands. If it does, I might consider getting it. So yeah, I've got excellent timing when it comes to this review. I don't know how many of you do this, but in every single video review that I've created, except for perhaps maybe the earliest ones, in the closing credits and in the comments section, I always post a link to the text review on CollectionDX.com. Always, 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 always. That way, as soon as you're done watching the video, you can go read what I wrote. You can go look at those more detailed pictures. Ideally, you're supposed to look at the text and picture review first and then watch the video reviews, but nowadays you can do it either way. It doesn't really matter to me anymore. I recorded a 19-minute closing commentary. I went back and listened to it, and I realized the majority of the things that I was saying in it I had already said in the text and picture review. So rather than me rehash everything that I said over there, you know, just doing double duty for myself, I'm going to suggest that you take the time to open up that little comment section there, painfully click that link, or type it into your search bar, and go read about my 2 cents over on CollectionDX.com, okay? Because I'll tell you right now, the number of views that I get on my video reviews are not the same as the views that I get on my text-to-picture reviews, and I've always wondered why. Well, let's see what happens here. So, trying to keep this as brief as possible, I would honestly suggest not giving this toy to kids, at least not the age range that they suggest, which is 4 to 6 years. Because I don't think they're going to quite understand that once you get this toy, you can't do this with it, you can't pose with it, you can't swing this thing around, you know, you can't really do that. This is very much a static display. This is very much a static display. And really, it's only there just to look at it and say, here is the Shinkenger with a huge sword in its hand. You know, that's pretty much all it is. Which is actually kind of poetic justice, considering that all we've had up to this point is katanas can be nice on their own, and, you know, they can have little decorations on them. This is actually a really nice decorated sword here, by the way. But, you know, the Shinkenger just needed a little more. Like, maybe if it had the wakizaki, I wouldn't have complained as much. You know, we got the katana, but we didn't get the smaller companion sword to go along with. You know, that would have been nice. And I had that opinion about it 2 years ago. So, yes, it is nice to have the Shinkenger with a huge sword, but I think they got a little carried away by selecting a role-play toy to act as that giant sword. I mean, why didn't they just make a scaled version of the Shinkenmaru for the Shinkenger in the first place, as opposed to using the Daishinken katana? You know, why didn't this look like a Shinkenmaru back in 2009? You know, that was something I never got. It just kind of makes sense. But to then use the mold from the Shinkenmaru role-play toy, by the way, role-play toy, for that, nah, it just didn't work. It's too incompatible. This is completely inexcusable. That it has to support its own weight is inexcusable. That it can't hang on to it and twist it around is inexcusable. This is a nice bonus to have. The electronic light and sound is a nice bonus to have. But to use the Shinkenmaru role-play toy is where it goes south real fast. That's where I have the problem with it. Yeah, I know, it's supposed to be a movie-exclusive set, but it just doesn't have the pizzazz or the oomph or the whatever it is of even past Super Sentai movie-exclusive sets. Things like the Blast Buggy, the Bakureno, and a bunch of others. You know, some of those are repaints, and some of those truly were movie-exclusive. You never saw them in the series. Actually, I think the Blast Buggy's the only one to do that. But as a DX-sized toy, no, this thing fails miserably. Now, granted, if you're a fan of the 5-star stories in Motorhead mecha, this is right up your alley. It really is. Kind of outlandish head and a huge weapon. That makes sense. That actually would work for you from that angle. But as a toy, no, I don't see kids playing around with this. So I would say that the Kyoryu Origami is very much a collector-oriented, completist exclusive type set. You know, you really have to want just the look of it. I mean, not even the function, because it functions like the Shinkenmaru. But you really, really, really got to want to complete your DX Origami system in order to get this thing. It's just not worth it, really, from any other angle. So, that's it for me covering the Samurai Gattai series. Believe it or not, it actually wasn't anything I was particularly looking forward to. I knew this was going to be a disaster. This had a couple of surprises in it, but ultimately it's still pretty damn ugly in all the modes it creates. This one took me a little bit by surprise, mostly because of how flexible it is, and okay, some of the modes it creates are, okay. This one was probably the one that I ended up, you know, it grew on me the most, and I actually liked it the most. And this one, I wasn't really thrilled about it from the start, and, well, I've mentioned this a number of times before, but I am not a completist when it comes to Super Sentai toys, or Transformers, or even Legos. I do not collect things just because they are available. I only collect things that are interesting to me, or that have some sort of other value to them. The only reason I got this is because I could make the Dai Tenku, which turned out to be really disappointing. And actually, Tora Shinkenger doesn't look that bad. The only reason I really got this is because the Dai Tenku had to have a left wing. And I got this because, well, actually this was another example of getting it just for the hell of it. I mean, it looked kind of interesting. The functions were not really that great. The spinning disc thing was really disappointing. But I wanted to make the Ikatenku Buster. So, yeah, I made a few exceptions there, but even as early as now it's almost 4 months ago, I had no plans, no intention whatsoever of getting the DX Daikai, okay? This thing caught me completely by surprise. So, the Kyoryu Origami was supposed to be the end of the line for me. This is as far as I was going to go. And so I said, you know, I only have one more left to go, and you know what? By itself, it doesn't look too bad. Like, the worst part of it probably is that the tail doesn't really look like a tail. I think they could have changed the decoration on it, or maybe changed the end of it, or maybe giving it some more unique coloring than, you know, just the gold Shiba Clan symbol, you know. For the most part, this is actually kind of cute. And I was actually, something that doesn't come out very well in those official photographs that they have of the Kyoryu Origami is the pattern detail along here. This is really, really nice. I like this. The scaled pattern here, I didn't even know that this one was down here. I thought I'd seen all the detail on there, but for some reason that escaped me. But anyways, the detailed patterns that they came up with of the scales were really nice. And you know what? Something else that carried over that I really enjoyed was this metallic finish that they have on here. The teeth are silver, you know, just plain old silver. But the outside of the blade here, these areas here, this area here, is actually a very pale metallic blue. I'm pretty sure it's the same metallic blue that they used on the DX Magi King from 2005 and Magi Ranger, which I absolutely loved. So, actually, when I was getting this, I thought that this was silver, I thought this was silver, but no, it's like, the only thing that's silver on here is the teeth. So, yeah, this is pretty satisfying. Yeah, it's a remold, it's a repaint, but I can forgive it, because it's actually pretty nice. This is a bonus, and as I mentioned earlier, the animation on there is very, very nice. Reasonable, considering, you know, well, what all the others did. So, yeah, that's why I got it, because I liked it. If I disliked it, unlike this one, and maybe that one, I would not have gotten this, because this is not integral to the Ikatenku Buster. You know, so I could easily have skipped this, but you know what? I like it. I like it. I like his stubby little legs. I like his toothy little grin like that. That's great. I wish it had the extendable neck thing. I mean, even if it pulled out like an inch or two, that would have been pretty cool, because you could have recreated what they did in the Shinkenger movie. What's it called? The Decisive War? Except they don't say the word Decisive War. Anyways, yeah. So, yeah. A lot of people were bugging me in the comment section of my Daikaio, hey Ava, are you going to be getting the Kyoryu Origami? Why are you liking it so much? Well, I like it because I like it. I can't explain that. And, that, as they say, is that. This is a dinosaur? Since when? This is Ava Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com, signing off.